My name is Rebecca Norton. Today for my Methods of Math class, I'll be reviewing the article titled, um, sorry, one second, titled Effectiveness of the Touch Math Technique in Teaching Basic Addition to Children with Autism. And I picked this article. I'm not a special education major, but I picked this article just because the study that they did was on middle schoolers over a first grade concept. So, since I am an early childhood major, I felt like the information in this article applied to what I would be teaching as well. So, the article talked about four different strategies. The first one was called counting all, which is basically whenever a student has a single digit math problem and they just have, so if I gave the students 5 plus 4, they would just count all of their fingers. And then there's counting on, so they have 5 and then they know if they're adding 4, they would go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So then they would then know it's 9. The other one that they talked about was just memorization and or rote addition, which is basically just practicing so much that you memorize all of the facts, the simple facts anyways. And then the last one that they talked about, which the article is mostly over, is the touch math technique, which was created in 1975, and it was actually created for students with disability because it is such a sensory thing. And for those of you who don't know what the touch math technique is it is basically the teacher would draw a number, so the number 2, and she would place 2 dots on the actual number. And then they would add, so then they would do plus 3, and she would have 3 dots on the number 3. And basically the students would just touch, and then touch, and then touch, and as they're touching the dot, they count that number is. So basically they've practiced so much with touching it and visualizing it that they can figure it out. The main thing that they talked about in the article was the children with autism that they tested. They said it was effective to teach them that method because, again, it is so sensory for them, and that's a huge thing with autistic children and any student in general. So that's kind of why I thought that it applied to my classroom and what I'm studying, because even though these students were in middle school, the standard is a first grade standard, and that's kind of the age group I want to teach. But the strategy doesn't necessarily, you don't have to be or have a disability to practice this strategy. I think it's a great way to address all of the learning styles. Like if a student is a strong visual learner, it's good for them. And it's honestly, like the article had mentioned, it's good for all learners really, because it could be auditory, it could be it's hands-on because you're touching the dots. So I think this is just a good way to teach math in a way that is helpful for students, and it's also helpful for the teacher to teach because it's so simple. And the article talked about it. It doesn't have to be dots. If a specific student is struggling with math and you want to use this technique, you could do smiley faces if they like smiley faces, or if it's a boy who plays soccer, you could put soccer balls instead of the dots, and they can touch it. You just have to try and connect with those students on a different level that's helpful for them, and you really engage that student. So that's why I thought this article was important. I definitely plan to use the touch math strategy in my early childhood classroom, just for the sheer fact that it is visual and addresses all learning styles, and it's I feel like it would be an easy way for students to understand it, and it's like a concrete way of them seeing like the actual like explanation of the number. So they would study the placement of the dots, and I would also teach my students like why I place those dots in that specific spot. It's not just random. And I would use this more just for simple addition, and you could even do subtraction if you wanted to. Um, but I also would use this as a combination with the other strategies that the article mentioned. I wouldn't just teach just touch math. But that's really all I have for you. I really enjoyed this article, and I hope you did too.